Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another card video at my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be creating a few cards using stencils from Tim Holtz as well as some embossing paste. So I've got two of those stencils out right now and I'll be adding a third here in a bit. In order to protect my work surface, I've laid down a Ranger craft sheet. This craft sheet is a slick surface that's really great for protecting your work surface when you're using embossing paste or inks or anything that could be really messy. I've taken some Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock and I've taped that down to my work surface, and then I'm going to be taping down the stencil. This is the Blossom stencil and I'm just turning it at a little bit of an angle so that I could get a better design. I'm using some Dazzlers embossing paste in the color See You in the Morning. This is from Shimmers Paints, and it's a new brand of embossing paste for me, and I really like it. It's a really pretty color. They have some great different colors in their line of embossing paste, especially if you want to use something that's pearlescent or has a little bit of a different finish. I'm using a palette knife just to scrape this embossing paste onto the stencil. I want a really thin layer on the stencil. I don't want it to be too thick, and I also want to kind of be a little bit more frugal with how much embossing paste I put down because I don't want to waste any. So after I had all the areas filled in, I scraped over it to make a really thin layer in that stencil and then scraped it back off into the jar. When you're using embossing paste, the thing you want to remember is that it dries rather quickly, so you do want to remove your stencil very soon after you're finished, and also take your palette knife and your stencil to a bucket of water or a sink and really brush off and clean off that stencil. I like to use an inexpensive nail brush to brush away all of the embossing paste out of that stencil, and I just use water. I don't use any soap at all. So I'm going to set this aside to dry while I move on to this other one. I'm going to be using the Wildflower stencil, and this time I'm using some metallic gold embossing paste from Dreamweaver. And like I did with the previous one, I'm just going to put this right on top. Now that Dazzler's embossing paste, the color that it goes down is pretty much the color it's going to be once it's dry. However, this metallic gold embossing paste actually dries to a little bit more of a gold finish. Like right now it almost looks a little bit like a pale bronze, but as it dries you will see that it changes colors, and I'll be sure to give you a side-by-side comparison between the wet and dry embossing paste. So like I did before, I'm going to clean up my area and then lift off this stencil, and you'll be able to see the crisp outline of the wildflower image. I really love these Tim Holtz stencils, especially because he has some really great organic images like this with the flowers, or he has some more geometric things like some patterns. I'm also going to use the lace stencil. I thought it'd be kind of fun to do some custom colors of embossing paste. So I'm going to be covering up the sides of that pattern just because it wasn't quite the width of this cardstock here. And then I'm using 3 different colors of Distress ink. I'm using, let's see, Victorian Velvet, Dusty Concord, and Seedless Preserves. And I'm going to be coloring some translucent embossing paste. I've seen others on YouTube or just out in the blogosphere using some Distress ink or other ink pads to color some white embossing paste, but I'm not sure if I've ever seen anyone use translucent. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to experiment and see what happens when I use translucent embossing paste instead of the regular embossing paste. So I'm just putting a little bit of that embossing paste into that ink that I put on my craft sheet here, and I'm going to mix that up with my palette knife. And I'm not making it like a perfect mix, but I just want to get it to where there's not big obvious streaks. So I'm going to smear that onto my stencil. I thought this looked exactly like raspberry yogurt. It kind of has that look to it for me, and it kind of has that same consistency. It's kind of like a consistency of a little bit of a sticky yogurt. So I cleaned off my palette knife, grabbed a little bit more of that embossing paste, and brought it over to the Dusty Concord color. And I just loved mixing this. I've never actually mixed custom colors of embossing paste before, and I don't think this will be my last. I think it looks really cool, and it's a great way to get kind of a gradient or ombre effect across your stenciling. So I'm adding that on and I'm letting it overlap up to that Victorian velvet a little bit, just so that it gets a good mix of color. If you wanted to be even more precise, you could have saved some of the previous color and mixed that with the Dusty Concord and then put that in between. But I decided to just sort of mix it on the project while I was working. So I cleaned up that palette knife again, and now I'm going to mix up some seedless preserves. And this color is so pretty once I start mixing it in. And it's really interesting to see these distressed ink colors in such a different format or a different medium. It's so fun to see them and see how vibrant they can be. So I'm smearing this on, like I did with the Dusty Concord, I'm letting it overlap the previous color. And I just want to get a nice mix of color on top of this stencil. And I really wanted to show you guys how easy it is to create your own custom embossing paste colors. It's really, really pretty. So I'm going to clean off my palette knife once more, and I'm surprised I really didn't waste that much embossing paste. Just a little bit here and there, and then just to clean up the work surface. So I'm going to go ahead and set these embossing paste pieces aside to dry. In fact, I actually let them dry overnight. Now, they didn't need that much time to dry, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes at most, but I let them dry overnight just because I had the time. So here's what they look like when they're all dry. You can see that really pretty kind of pearl metallic finish on that Dazzler's embossing paste. And here's that gold metallic embossing paste from Dreamweaver. I'm going to show you what it looks like out of the jar and then once it's dry. And you can see that there's quite a bit of difference in color. It's a little more of a creamy color in the jar, and then it has a very metallic gold look after. And this one sort of almost looked like a stained glass look. In fact, I think I want to try putting this embossing paste on top of some clear acetate. I don't know if it'll stick or not, but I'm going to give it a go and experiment and try. The greeting I'm going to be using on these 3 cards is from the Smile, I think it's the Scripty Smile die from Mama Elephant. And I'm cutting it out of some Neenah Solar White cardstock. It's that same white cardstock that I used for the stenciling. Put a Stick It adhesive sheet down so that as I die cut these, the word, that it will have adhesive all along the back. So I'm just running that through my die cutting machine, and I'm going to cut it out 3 times, once for each card. I wanted to have these greetings sort of popped up off the card, so I'm also going to be cutting some fun foam. So I'm going to put more Stick It on the fun foam, and this is the adhesive that's actually going to stick to the card. So I'm going to turn over the fun foam, and then I'll be die cutting it 3 times, just like I did with the white cardstock. So after I ran the fun foam through, I was really impressed with how cleanly it cut. In fact, I think next time I might even put that cardstock on first and then just cut it on top of the fun foam to see if it works. So the way I discovered that it was the easiest way to put these together was to have the fun foam down on your work surface, take the backing off the paper die cut, and then really carefully line those up. I tried it a couple other ways, you know, putting the paper down on the surface and then using the foam and putting that on top, but really the easiest way I found to do it was have the foam on your work surface and apply the paper die cut on top. And that Stick It adhesive is forgiving, so if you need to make some fixes like I did here, you absolutely can. After the die cuts were prepped, I created my card bases. I used some Neenah Solar White 110-pound cardstock, and I scored that at 5.5 to create a folding card on the short end. And then I put some foam adhesive behind the stencil pieces and adhered those directly onto the card bases. Just as an example, I'm showing you the finishing up of this card, since the other cards were very simple, and you'll see those in a minute here. I wanted to make sure that that white greeting die cut would be really legible on top of this pattern. So I cut a slit in the fold of the card and slid some cardstock vellum in over the top, and then I adhered it on the inside of the card. And in order to adhere the vellum, I just used a regular adhesive. The adhesive I'm using today is Tombow Extreme Adhesive. It's actually a really great adhesive for adhering vellum because it doesn't show too much as long as it's like vellum on top of white. If it's on any other color, it does kind of show. But if you are needing an adhesive that works well with vellum, you could use this one. So I just put adhesive on the inside of the card and wrapped that vellum around. And then I took the die cut that I'd previously prepared and put that right over the top. Now I did have the little dot on the eye that was missing, so I searched my work area and I was able to find the dot for this one. The other two cards I wasn't able to find the dots, but I decided that it really didn't matter too much. So here's that one card all completely finished, and here are the other two. They're very simple. I didn't need to put any vellum on top. When they're tipped in the light just right, you can read them with no problem. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and got some ideas for things to do with embossing paste. I will see you guys in the next video, and thanks for watching. On screen are 3 more card videos for you to check out where I use stencils. That first one actually was a DIY stencil using die cuts, and the other 2 are using existing stencils with embossing paste or some distress ink blending. So I hope you'll check those out. You can visit me at my blog at kwarnerdesign.com, and I'm also on social media at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest. Once again, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys on Monday for a new video.